When we first started developing our film, what we felt was really important was the narrative structure. Having a clear narrative would allow us to attract a wide audience, enabling them to identify with the character and go on a journey with that character. We began our research by observing Todorov's theory, beginning, middle and end, and applying it to the short films we analysed. We observed that not all short films had a denouement, where everything gets tied up at the end. We discovered that this convention is common to short stories, especially written in the 19th century, and we observed this in some of the short films we looked at. There is certainly a setup and a point of attack though. So, short films have a bit of flexibility with narrative. However, the audience needs a character with whom they can identify to. Researching narrative further, we found a TED lecture by Mr. Julian Friedman. He talked about Aristotle's theory of pity, fear and cathesis. You make the audience feel pity for your character, then you fear for them, and then you make them feel cathesis where the character comes through it all. We were also aware of the conventions of an art house film with little or no narrative, as well as films that were portraits, and thus more of a montage. This was the convention we began to explore first with our idea. At first, we were going to create a portrait of a divorce, a less conventional narrative of a short film, familiar with art house and experimental films. This worked well until we were in post-production and got feedback. We felt that a lack of narrative was becoming a real problem. Audiences were confused and we simply had a setup which established the girl, her parents and the fact that they were divorced and that the character was unhappy. But that was it. Endless shots of an unhappy kid. We realised we needed a more conventional narrative, so we started to brainstorm ideas. We needed a disequilibrium. We knew that our character was being ignored, sidelined as though they were invisible, so we started to think of what she could do about that. We did this by making Ruby start stealing and breaking her parents' possessions to try and get noticed by them. Then finally we needed to create a new equilibrium so that the film had a conventional ending. In the short film Treehouse, there is a powerful shot of the mother hugging her son, giving him comfort, which we thought could be used to end our film. Therefore, our film ends with the mum discovering what Ruby is going through, and instead of having a go at her, she hugs her, thus recognising Ruby's struggles, so we end up with catharsis. Further, research of drama shorts revealed the convention of having less dialogue, seen in the short film Divorce, which was what we wanted our film to be like. We felt this worked well as it uses film language to explain what is happening instead of dialogue. Another film that we looked at was Treehouse. In dramas, one of the key conventions is dealing with real-life situations. In Treehouse, it is apparent from the first shot that the boy is isolated from the rest of society and has no friends. In our film, we begin with a similar shot of a close-up of Ruby's face as she is in the park. The indexical sign of the sound of children playing, suggesting a playground, and is used to highlight the fact that she is very lonely. This park was Ruby's escape from everything going on at home with her parents, and in Treehouse, the young boy's escape was visiting space in his imagination. These are signs of loneliness, a theme which may be identified in a drama, thus keeping to the conventions. Another example of this is Ruby walking between her parents' houses. In the film Hitchhike, you see a boy walking alone down a long road, looking very lonely, which we see a similar shot in our film. Finally, to add a sense of social realism to our film, we use filters to create a conventional dark, gloomy tone. This is very apparent in the film Gasman, where similarly a dark filter has been used to create a more realistic look. We have done the same thing. As well as following the conventions of a drama, there are also conventions of art house in our film. The use of long shots and having an ambiguous ending are two things evident in our film and typically conventional of art house styled films.